Hello there, and welcome to the channel. Tonight we are going to learn about the weather. We will explore the sky, the clouds, the storms, and all the amazing things that happen above our heads every single day. The sky might look simple when you look up at it, but it is actually full of wonder and surprise. It is like a living ocean made of air. Winds blow through it, clouds paint beautiful pictures, and invisible rivers of heat move around all the time. In this incredible system, sunlight breaks into colors. Lightning cuts through the sky with bright fire. Storms are born that can travel across entire oceans. Weather is not just something that happens outside. It is the breath of our planet. It is the heartbeat of Earth. It is the song that nature sings. If you like these calm science videos, I invite you to like and subscribe. You can also share your favorite fact in the comments below. It helps other people find this channel too. But right now, you do not need to do anything except rest. Get comfortable, take a deep breath, and let your mind wander into the world of weather. Let us begin. Fact 1. A single storm cloud can weigh more than 1 million elephants. When you look up at a cloud floating in the sky, it looks soft and light. It looks like cotton floating above you. But the truth is much more amazing. A normal cloud, the kind you see on a summer day, can hold hundreds of thousands of tons of water. All those tiny water drops are too small to see by themselves. But when you add them all together, they create a weight that is heavier than 1 million elephants standing side by side. And yet, the cloud floats in the air. It stays up there because the water is spread out into millions and millions of tiny drops. Each drop is carried up by warm air rising from the ground. The fact that something so heavy can look so light and gentle is one of the great mysteries of weather. The next time you look up and see a cloud moving slowly across the sky, remember that it is carrying the weight of entire lakes in its soft arms. Fact 2. Lightning is hotter than the surface of the Sunday. In just 1 second, a bright bolt of lightning cuts through the sky. It looks like pure white fire shooting down from the clouds. But its real temperature is even more surprising. A lightning strike can reach over 30,000 degrees. That makes it several times hotter than the surface of the Sunday. The amount of energy in one lightning bolt is huge. It is powerful enough to heat the air around it so fast that the air turns into something called plasma. It makes the sky glow with a blinding bright light. That sudden heating and expansion of air is what we hear as thunder. It rolls across the land like drums. Each flash of lightning is like a science experiment happening right in the sky. It packs incredible heat and energy into less than 1 second. Some lightning bolts travel for miles. They connect the sky to the ground in a chain of light. Even though lightning is violent and dangerous, it also helps life on Earth. It helps put nitrogen into the soil. That nitrogen feeds the plants that keep us alive. Fact 3. The sound of thunder is air exploding from heat. Thunder makes a deep, rolling sound across the sky. Sometimes it sounds like distant drums. Sometimes it sounds sharp and sudden. What we are really hearing is the voice of lightning. When lightning flashes, it heats the air so quickly and so much that the air molecules cannot keep up. They expand in a violent rush. This creates a shockwave that races outward faster than the speed of sound. That shockwave is thunder. The sound changes depending on how far away you are from the lightning. It might crack loudly, or it might rumble softly, or it might echo between hills and buildings. Because light travels much faster than sound, we see the lightning flash long before we hear the thunder. That is why you can count the seconds between seeing lightning and hearing thunder. This tells you how far away the storm is. Thunder is both a warning and something wonderful. It reminds us of the huge forces at work above us. It comes wrapped in the rolling rhythm of the storm. Fact 4. Raindrops are not shaped like teardrops at all. When children draw rain, they usually draw drops that look like tears. They draw them pointed at the top and round at the bottom. But real raindrops do not look like that at all. The smallest raindrops are almost perfectly round like little balls. They are held together by something called surface tension. As raindrops grow bigger, the air pushing against them starts to flatten their bottoms. If a raindrop grows too big, it cannot hold together anymore. It breaks apart into smaller drops. This small detail makes rain even more beautiful when you think about it. Each drop is tumbling from the sky in its own perfect shape. The idea of teardrops comes from how water looks when it slides down a window or down your cheek. Gravity stretches it as it moves downward, but the actual raindrops falling from clouds onto fields, roofs, and rivers have their own hidden shape. They are tiny round jewels, not the sharp shapes we imagine in our minds. Fact 5. The smell of rain comes from ancient oils and tiny particles. There is a special word for the earthy, comforting smell that rises after it rains. That word is petrichor. This smell is created by a mix of amazing things. During long dry periods, tiny plants release oils into the dry soil. When raindrops hit the ground, they break tiny bubbles in the soil. These bubbles carry the oils up into the air. At the same time, something else called geosmin is released. Geosmin is made by tiny living things that live in the soil. It fills the air with a rich, earthy smell. During storms, lightning can also split apart molecules of oxygen and nitrogen in the air. This creates something called ozone. Ozone adds a sharp, fresh smell to the mix. The result is that unmistakable smell of rain. It is a scent connected to ancient soils, living microbes, and even the chemistry of the sky itself. When you breathe in that smell, you are breathing in a story as old as the earth. It is a story as wide as the whole atmosphere. Fact 6. Snowflakes can fall at very different speeds. We usually picture snow falling softly and slowly. We imagine each snowflake spinning gently through the air. And while some snowflakes really do float gently, others fall surprisingly fast. The speed depends on how big they are and what shape they have. Small, delicate snow crystals might come down at just a tiny bit per second. They hover in the air like they do not want to land. Bigger snowflakes that are made of many crystals stuck together can fall much faster. They might fall at a few meters every second. Wind makes things even more complicated. Wind can toss snowflakes sideways, upward, and in spirals. Sometimes snowflakes get carried for miles before they finally reach the ground. So, when you watch snow falling, you are watching a dance. It is a dance created by air pushing against the flakes, by gravity pulling them down, and by the hidden structure of ice. Every snowflake makes its own unique journey through the air before it settles into the white quiet of winter. Fact 7. Some snowflakes are wider than a coin. Most snowflakes are small and delicate. They are usually no bigger than your fingernail. But when conditions are just right, snowflakes can grow to incredible sizes. When the air is moist, the winds are gentle, and the temperature is perfect, snowflakes can stick together. They form big clusters that can be wider than a coin. Some can even grow as large as a dinner plate. The biggest snowflakes ever recorded were seen in Montana back in the late 1800s. People said they were more than 15 inches across. Imagine such huge flakes falling slowly from the sky. They would look like big icy feathers drifting down. Most of us will only see snowflakes the size of coins or smaller. But knowing that the sky can make such giant ones adds something magical to winter storms. Each snowflake, whether large or small, carries the complex shape of ice crystals that grew in silence high above the earth. Fact 8. Blizzards can make it impossible to see your own hand. A blizzard is not just heavy snow. It is a storm where wind and snow come together into a blinding wall. When you're in the middle of a blizzard, you might only be able to see a few feet in front of you. People caught in blizzards sometimes say they cannot even see their own hands when they hold them right in front of their faces. The snow gets whipped up into the air by powerful wind gusts. This creates what is called a whiteout. In a whiteout, all sense of direction disappears. Everything looks the same. The temperature drops very low, and the wind makes it feel even colder. The wind chill can freeze your skin in just minutes if it is exposed. For people who live on open plains or high in the mountains, blizzards are some of the most dangerous weather events. They can confuse even people who know the area very well, and yet inside all that fury there is also a strange kind of beauty. The world transforms into a blank white canvas. Silence and chaos exist at the same time. Fact 9. Hailstones grow in perfect layers like onions. When a thunderstorm has a very strong updraft, raindrops get carried high up into the colder parts of the cloud. Up there, they freeze into tiny balls of ice. These ice balls might then fall back down, pick up more water, and get lifted up again. Each time they go up, they freeze another layer. By the time hailstones finally fall to the ground, they might have dozens of layers inside them. They look like the rings you see when you cut open a tree or the layers inside an onion. If you slice a hailstone open, you can see its hidden history. Each layer is a record of one trip through the storm. Small hailstones are usually harmless, but bigger ones can break windows, destroy crops, and dent cars. The biggest hailstones can weigh more than a pound. Even so, they are like natural sculptures. They are carved by the rough breath of the clouds. They carry the memory of the storm frozen inside their icy design. Fact 10. The largest hail ever recorded was bigger than a volleyball. In July of 2010, in a small town called Vivian in South Dakota, an incredible piece of hail fell from the sky. It was almost as big as a volleyball. It was 8 inches across and weighed almost 2 pounds. Imagine a ball of ice that big falling toward the ground at high speed. Luckily, it landed in a field instead of hitting a house or a person, but it remains the largest hailstone ever measured in the United States. Around the world, other storms have made other huge hailstones. Each one was formed by powerful winds inside storm clouds. These winds carried the ice up and down many times, adding layer after layer of ice. Most hailstones are no bigger than peas, but records like the one in Vivian remind us that nature can go to extremes. Under rare conditions, the sky can make ice missiles of terrifying size. They are forged by the violent movement inside clouds and then hurled back down to Earth. Fact 11. Tornado winds can push straw through solid wood. Tornadoes are among the most amazing forces in nature. They twist across the land with winds so strong they can do things that seem impossible. Light pieces of straw, when caught in a tornado, can be driven straight through solid wood. The winds speed up everything they catch to such incredible speeds that even gentle objects become weapons. Pieces of straw have been found stuck inside fence posts, utility poles, and even the walls of houses after storms pass through. This shows just how violent the air can become when it spins into a tornado. The tornado does not need heavy objects to cause damage. It can turn grass into arrows. To be in the path of such a storm would be to face something that bends the rules of normal life. Fragile things become tools of destruction. Fact 12. The fastest tornado winds can match the speed of a jet plane. When we think about powerful winds, we might think about hurricanes or big storms over the ocean, but tornadoes create even stronger winds than those. The most powerful tornadoes, called EF5 tornadoes, have winds that blow faster than 300 miles per hour. That is as fast as a passenger jet flying through the sky. In winds like that, cars can be thrown into the air like toys. Steel beams can be bent or twisted. Entire buildings can disappear from where they stood. Storm chasers who have survived being close to these tornadoes say the sound is like a freight train coming right at you. It is unstoppable and huge. Thankfully, tornadoes this powerful are rare, but knowing they exist makes us respect the atmosphere. They are the most concentrated bursts of wind on the planet. They remind us that the air around us can sometimes move at unimaginable speeds. Fact 13. Hurricanes release more energy than every power plant on Earth combined. A hurricane is a storm so big it is hard to imagine. It can stretch across hundreds of miles. It is powered by warm ocean water. It gathers moisture and heat and builds into a huge spinning engine. The energy that one mature hurricane releases in a single day is greater than all the energy made by every power plant that humans have built. Imagine every coal plant, every nuclear reactor, every wind turbine, and every solar panel all working together. Even all of that would not match the power of one storm. Most of this energy comes out as heat. The heat is carried away when billions of raindrops form. Some of the energy comes out as fierce winds and huge waves. To stand near the edge of a hurricane is to feel just a tiny touch of its power. From space, satellites can only capture how huge and swirling it looks. A hurricane is Earth's most amazing weather machine. Fact 14. The calmest part of a hurricane is at its violent center. If you step into the eye of a hurricane, you will find something almost unbelievable. After hours of screaming winds and heavy rain, suddenly there is silence. The air becomes clear. The clouds break apart. Sometimes you can even see the sun shining. This is called the eye of the hurricane. It is a circular area at the heart of the storm. The eye is often 20 to 40 miles wide. Here the winds calm down and the ocean surface becomes steadier. But this is not a safe place to be. All around the eye is something called the eye wall. The eye wall is a towering ring of thunderstorms. This is where the storm's winds reach their strongest point. The eye is like the quiet center of a spinning wheel. It is calm only because chaos is spinning so strongly around it. For people who have been inside the eye, it feels eerie. It feels peaceful and beautiful, but also filled with fear. They know that after a short break, the storm will return with all its force. Fact 15. Monsoons can change entire landscapes in one season. In many parts of the world, life follows the rhythm of something called the monsoon. Monsoons are seasonal winds that change direction and bring huge amounts of rain with them. For months, dry lands may lie cracked and brown, waiting for water. Then, almost overnight, the skies open up. Rivers fill with water, fields flood, forests become bright green and full of life. The monsoon rains give life, but they can also destroy. They water the crops that feed hundreds of millions of people, but they can also cause floods and landslides that reshape the land. In places like India, Southeast Asia, and parts of Africa, entire cultures have grown around the cycle of the monsoon. Farmers plant and harvest based on when it arrives. Festivals celebrate when it comes. It is a turning of the atmosphere so huge it changes entire nations. Fact 16. The Atacama Desert can go decades without a drop of rain. There are dry places in the world, and then there is the Atacama. It stretches across northern Chile. It is considered the driest desert on Earth, not counting the poles. Some weather stations in the Atacama have never recorded even a single drop of rain. Parts of it can go for decades without any rain you can measure. The soil is so empty of life that scientists from NASA have studied it. They use it to understand what Mars might be like. Yet even here, life finds ways to survive. Some plants pull water from fog that drifts in from the coast. Tiny living things cling to life deep in the ground. On very rare times when rain does fall, the desert explodes with colour. Wildflowers bloom across the sand in an event called the Flowering Desert. To stand in the Atacama is to feel the silence of a place almost untouched by weather. The sky is huge, and every single drop of water is like a miracle. Fact 17. The wettest place on Earth gets walls of rain. In the northeast part of India is a village called Mawsynram. It is often called the wettest place on Earth where people live. Every year, monsoon winds from the Bay of Bengal push into the hills around the village. The moist air is forced upward. The result is stunning. The village gets an average of almost 12 meters of rain per year. Imagine rain so heavy that rivers rush down streets. Waterfalls pour from cliffs. The sound of water is always there. Roofs must be built very strong to handle all that water. Villagers even make bridges out of living tree roots to cross the rivers that swell with rain. Life in Mawsynram is completely shaped by rain. While most people measure rain in inches or centimeters, in Mawsynram it comes in towering walls of water every single year. It reminds us that weather is not spread evenly. Some places drown in rain, while others are forever dry. Fact 18. The hottest temperature ever recorded could melt car tires. In July of 1913, in Death Valley, California, a wind like a furnace swept across the desert floor. The official temperature measured was 56.7 degrees Celsius. That is 134 degrees Fahrenheit. That makes it the hottest temperature ever reliably recorded on Earth. At heat like that, roads become soft. Metal burns your skin if you touch it. Car tires can start to melt if you drive on them too long. The human body struggles to cool itself down. Even in the shade, it becomes very hard to survive without water. Death Valley earned its name from heat this extreme. The heat rises off the rocks in waves you can see. Other places like Kuwait or Iran have come close to this temperature. But Death Valley still holds the record. The fact that temperatures like this exist on our own planet reminds us how powerful the atmosphere is. The air above us is not always mild and gentle. Sometimes it becomes a blazing, deadly oven. Fact 19. The coldest air on Earth can freeze metal in seconds. At the heart of Antarctica, on a high flat area far from the sea, there is a place where the air feels like it is from another planet. Here, in 1983, at a research station called Vostok, scientists recorded a temperature of minus 89.2 degrees Celsius. That is colder than dry ice. It is cold enough to make steel become brittle and break. It is cold enough to shatter glass. More recently, satellites have measured even lower temperatures in nearby low areas. They got close to minus 98 degrees. In cold like this, your breath freezes into crystals in the air. Machines stop working. Any skin that is exposed can freeze solid almost right away. This is colder than the average surface of Mars. To live in a place like this takes incredible preparation. You need heated shelters, special insulated suits, and you must be careful every moment. Yet even in this frozen heart of Earth, weather still happens. Winds blow, snow drifts across the ice, clouds pass slowly overhead. It is the ultimate place of cold, where Earth's atmosphere meets its most extreme silence. Fact 20. Heat waves kill more people than any other extreme weather. Storms and floods often make the news because their power is visible and dramatic. But the deadliest form of weather is much quieter. It is the heat wave. When air becomes still and temperatures stay very high for days or weeks, the human body starts to struggle. Without any relief from the heat, stress builds up in the body. The heart works too hard. The body loses water. Cities suffer the most because roads and concrete soak up heat. They create islands of hot air that stay trapped. Nights do not bring much relief because buildings release the warmth they stored during the day. Around the world, heat waves have killed tens of thousands of people. They often do it silently. They affect older people, very young children, and people without shelter the most. Unlike a storm, you cannot see the violence of a heat wave, but it is there in hospitals that fill up with patients. It is there in fields where crops die. It is there in rivers where fish die by the thousands. Heat waves are weather's most sneaky threat. They creep in quietly, but with terrible power. Fact 21. Fog can be so thick you cannot see your own feet. Fog is one of weather's quietest tricks. It is really just a cloud that has lowered down to the ground. It wraps the world in soft silence. Usually, fog makes the horizon disappear. It blurs buildings and trees into shapes that look like ghosts. But in rare cases, fog can become so thick that you can only see a few feet in front of you. People walking through very thick fog say they cannot even see their feet clearly. In fog like this, sound behaves strangely too. It feels muffled and close, like the air itself has become heavy. Airplanes cannot take off. Ships slow down to almost nothing. Drivers are forced to move forward very slowly with great care. Even though fog is soft, it can be one of the most dangerous weather events. And yet, walking through thick fog can feel like being in another world. It is like moving inside a dream, where the edges of everything have dissolved. All that is left is whiteness and the sound of your own breathing. Fact 22. Dew can collect enough water to keep life alive in deserts. In the dry silence of deserts, rain is usually very rare, but dew is a quiet helper. As the sun goes down, the ground cools quickly. If the air temperature drops below a certain point, moisture in the air turns into water on rocks, leaves, and even tiny grains of sand. Each morning, the desert wakes up covered in tiny drops of water. For plants and animals that have learned to survive in the desert, this dew can mean the difference between living and dying. Some beetles tilt their bodies to catch drops that slide into their mouths. Certain plants have ways to guide dew down their stems to their roots. Even humans have learned ways to collect dew using nets or special surfaces that catch these tiny drops of water. Each droplet by itself is very small, but together they provide water in places where rain might not fall for many months. Dew is like rain delivered in whispers instead of storms. Fact 23. Frost crystals can grow into sharp forests of ice. On cold winter mornings, frost sometimes paints beautiful patterns on windows. It makes curling leaves and shapes that look like ferns. It creates lace made of ice. These are ice crystals that form when water vapor freezes right onto a cold surface. But when conditions are just right, frost can grow into something much bigger and stranger. On mountain peaks and in polar areas, frost can form sharp forests of ice. Scientists call this hoarfrost. The crystals stretch upward into pointed towers. Sometimes they grow to be inches long. They catch the morning light like glass sculptures. Each spike grows as vapor touches its surface and freezes. Layer upon layer builds up until the whole area is covered with frozen blades. In the stillness of very cold air, they stay delicate and sharp. If you step too close, they break at your touch. Yet for as long as they last, they turn the normal world into something magical. A forest made of ice, born from nothing more than cold air and moisture. Fact 24. Ice storms coat cities in a dangerous shell of glass. There is beauty in an ice storm, but it is a dangerous kind of beauty. An ice storm happens when rain falls through a layer of freezing air that is close to the ground. The drops turn into something called supercooled liquid. They are still liquid as they fall, but they are ready to freeze the second they touch anything. Roads turn into sheets of ice you cannot see. Tree branches become crystal sculptures. Power lines sag under all the sudden weight. At night, when car headlights shine on everything, the frozen world sparkles with reflections. Roads become impossible to drive on. Trees snap and break. Whole neighborhoods can lose power for days. To walk outside during an ice storm is to move through a world made of fragile jewels. Every surface is slick and dangerous. It is weather at its most tricky. It looks breathtaking, but it is also very risky. Fact 25. Dust devils can rise taller than skyscrapers. On a hot, dry afternoon, the ground can heat up unevenly. This sends tall columns of warm air spinning upward. Sometimes this air starts to twist and spin, forming something called a dust devil. Many dust devils are small, they might only swirl a few feet across, but some grow to incredible heights. They become twisting towers of dust that rise taller than skyscrapers. Unlike tornadoes, dust devils form under clear skies. They dance across deserts, fields, and even parking lots. Small ones just kick up leaves and sand. But the biggest dust devils can knock down fences, lift pieces of roofs, or throw things across the ground. Pilots flying in planes have reported seeing huge dust devils from the air. They look like temporary giants towering over the land. Dust devils are brief and chaotic, but they are amazing to watch. They are like miniature whirlwinds that show us how alive the atmosphere is even on days that seem calm. When you watch a dust devil, you are seeing the invisible movements of heat and air suddenly made visible in a dramatic way. Fact 26. Waterspouts can spin across the ocean like watery tornadoes. Imagine standing on a beach and seeing a thin, twisting column rising from the sea. It stretches up to the clouds above. This is called a waterspout. It is a spinning funnel of air and mist that looks like a tornado but forms over water. Some waterspouts are fairly weak. They spin across bays or lakes without causing much harm before they disappear. Others are strong enough to flip boats over, break masts, and whip waves into chaos. Fishermen have told stories for centuries about waterspouts appearing on the horizon like ghostly funnels. From far away, they can look strangely beautiful. They are spirals of silver mist gliding across the sea. Sometimes sunlight or lightning shines through them. But when you get close to one, they show their true power. They blend storm winds with ocean spray in a wild mix. Waterspouts remind us that tornado-like fury does not only happen on land. Even the calm open sea can suddenly twist into a spinning tower of water that reaches for the sky. Fact 27. Microbursts can slam planes out of the sky. Microbursts are among the most dangerous and hidden threats in weather. They happen when a thunderstorm suddenly drops a huge mass of cool air down toward the ground. This air plunges downward and then spreads out at high speed when it hits the surface. To people on the ground, a microburst might feel like a sudden violent blast of wind. It can knock down trees or flatten fields. But for airplanes, the danger is much greater. A plane flying into a microburst can suddenly lose the lift it needs to stay in the air. It gets forced downward faster than the pilot can react to save it. Several airplane accidents in the past showed how deadly microbursts can be. This led to new safety systems that can detect them before planes fly into them. Microbursts do not last very long. Sometimes they only last for a few minutes. But their power is immense. Winds can exceed 100 miles per hour. They stay invisible until they strike. They show how storms can release fury not just through lightning and rain, but in sudden catastrophic blasts of air. Fact 28. Supercell storms can grow larger than entire states. Most thunderstorms are small events that happen in one place. They usually last less than an hour. But supercells are very different. They are massive, organized storms that have rotating columns of rising air inside them. These rotating updrafts are called mesocyclones. Supercells can last for many hours. On satellite images, they can stretch across hundreds of miles. Sometimes they are larger than entire states in America. Inside their towering clouds, which can rise more than 10 miles into the sky, whole weather systems come alive. Lightning flashes thousands of times every minute. Hailstones form layer upon layer as they get tossed up and down. Tornadoes can spin into existence suddenly. To watch one forming from a distance is to see the atmosphere showing its strength. It looks like a dark, rolling wall of cloud so huge that it changes the shape of the horizon itself. Supercells seem alive. They breathe, rotate, and grow until the land beneath them feels tiny. Fact 29. Some thunderstorms can last for more than 12 hours. We often think of thunderstorms as quick events. A burst of lightning, some heavy rain, and then clear skies return. But under the right conditions, thunderstorms can go on for much longer. Systems called mesoscale convective complexes can keep going for 12 hours or even more. They can travel across entire regions while staying strong the whole time. Inside these long-lasting storms, waves of smaller storms rise and fall in a cycle that feeds itself. They pull in warm, moist air and release huge amounts of rain. These thunderstorms can cause flooding that covers wide areas. They can produce lightning outbreaks and powerful winds. From above, they look like sprawling masses of cloud. They glow with flickering lightning like a living thing. For people beneath them, the storm becomes a companion through the night. Thunder rumbles without stopping. Flashes repeat again and again. Rain seems like it will never end. These storms remind us that weather is not always brief. Sometimes the sky settles in for a long and restless visit. Fact 30. There is a storm in Venezuela that has made lightning for centuries. Over the mouth of the Catatumbo River in Venezuela, a storm has been going on for hundreds of years. It is known as the Catatumbo lightning. This is a natural event where lightning storms happen almost every night. Sometimes they last for 10 hours at a time. They occur for more than 200 nights each year. The special geography of this region creates perfect conditions for constant storms. Warm winds from the Caribbean Sea crash into cold air coming down from the Andes Mountains. This mixing creates a recipe for never-ending storms. From many miles away, the sky above Lake Maracaibo glows with flickering light. It looks like a silent fireworks show. Sailors far out at sea can see it. For many generations, people have called it the lighthouse of Maracaibo. It is a beacon that you can see without any break. Scientists are still studying why this one location produces so much lightning. But one thing is certain. Nowhere else on Earth does lightning pulse with such endless rhythm. Fact 31. Weather balloons can rise higher than Mount Everest. Every day, hundreds of weather balloons are released around the world. They carry instruments called radiosondes into the sky. They look simple. They are just large balloons filled with helium or hydrogen gas, yet they climb to extraordinary heights. They rise at about 1,000 feet per minute. They drift far above airplanes and far above clouds. They go into the stratosphere itself. By the time they burst, they can be over 20 miles high. That is much higher than Mount Everest. At those heights, the air is so thin and cold that temperatures drop to minus 90 degrees Celsius. The edge of space is visible. The horizon curves against the blackness above. As they climb, these balloons measure temperature, air pressure, humidity, and wind speed. They send this information back to weather stations. This data allows scientists to forecast the weather days ahead. Though most of us never see them, they are explorers of the atmosphere. They are silent travelers that map the invisible ocean of air around our planet. Fact 32. Satellites can see hurricanes from space in real time. Orbiting hundreds of miles above Earth, weather satellites watch over us like silent guards. When hurricanes form over the oceans, satellites capture their spiral arms stretching across hundreds of miles. They can see the eyes of hurricanes. The eyes look like huge pupils staring upward. From space, a hurricane looks breathtakingly beautiful. Modern satellites can track these storms as they happen. They map where the rain is falling. They measure how fast the winds are blowing. They can even look inside hurricanes with infrared sensors. These sensors watch the heat coming from the clouds. This constant watching saves lives. It gives coastal cities precious hours or days to prepare before storms arrive. Before satellites existed, storms would strike with far less warning. But now we can watch them grow, travel, and eventually fade back into the sea. From the cold silence of orbit, satellites see Earth's most violent storms not as chaos but as mesmerizing living patterns. Fact 33. Doppler radar can track raindrops moving through the air. When a storm approaches, the familiar green and red patterns on weather maps are made possible by radar. But modern Doppler radar does much more than just detect rain. It works by bouncing radio waves off raindrops and snowflakes. Then it measures not only where they are, but also how fast they are moving and in what direction. This allows weather forecasters to see inside storms in amazing detail. They can track rotation that might create tornadoes. They can spot bands of heavy rain that could cause flooding. Doppler radar turns the invisible movements of the atmosphere into a visible map. Each pixel of red, green, or purple represents countless droplets tumbling through the sky. They reveal the hidden structure of weather. They let us glimpse the dance of the atmosphere as it unfolds above our heads. Fact 34. The northern lights are a form of space weather. High above the polar regions, shimmering curtains of green, purple, and red dance across the night sky. These are the northern lights. Their scientific name is aurora borealis. Though they look like weather on Earth, their origin is in space. Streams of charged particles flow from the sunday. When they reach Earth, our magnetic field catches them and funnels them down toward the poles. When these particles strike atoms in the upper atmosphere, they excite them. This causes the atoms to glow. What we see is shifting ribbons of light as the atmosphere itself coming alive. This is not just weather of the Earth, it is space weather. It reminds us that our atmosphere is a shield against the constant stream of energy from the sunday. Watching the aurora is like seeing Earth's magnetic heartbeat. It is a direct connection between solar storms and the thin veil of gases that protect our world. Fact 35. Solar storms can disrupt Earth's weather systems. When the sun erupts with a solar storm, clouds of plasma and magnetic energy stream across space at incredible speeds. These storms can reach Earth in just a couple of days. They rattle our magnetic field and create brilliant auroras in the sky, but they can also reach deeper into our systems. They disrupt satellites and power grids. Some scientists believe strong solar storms might temporarily change weather on Earth. They do this by altering the way the atmosphere absorbs energy from the sunday. These connections are subtle, and scientists do not fully understand them yet. Our atmosphere gets constantly stirred by the sun's invisible hand. Even when skies are clear, solar storms can ripple through the fabric of our environment. In this way, Earth's weather is never entirely its own. It is part of a larger conversation with the star that keeps us alive. Fact 36. Even jet contrails can change local cloud cover. Look up on a clear day, and you might see long, thin trails left by airplanes crossing the sky. These trails are called contrails. They form when exhaust from the plane mixes with cold, moist air. Sometimes contrails disappear quickly, but other times they can linger and spread. They merge together into thin, wispy clouds called cirrus clouds. Though they look delicate, contrails can change local weather. They affect how sunlight and heat move through the atmosphere. In some regions where there is a lot of air traffic, contrails have been shown to increase cloud cover noticeably. They can warm nights slightly and cool days a bit. After the September 11th attacks in 2001, flights were temporarily stopped in the United States. Scientists observed unusual changes in day and night temperatures during that time. This was a hint of how much contrails normally influence the balance of weather. It reminds us that even small streaks of human activity can ripple outward into the great ocean of weather. They paint the sky and shift the planet's breath in ways we rarely notice. Fact 37. Flash floods can move boulders the size of cars. Water is usually gentle. It carves valleys over millions of years. It wears down mountains, grain by grain. But in a flash flood, water shows a completely different face. It becomes sudden, furious, and unstoppable. When very heavy rain falls in a short amount of time, rivers can swell in just minutes. Dry gullies can become roaring rivers. These walls of water carry sand, branches, and even huge boulders with them. Some boulders weigh several tons. Entire cars can be lifted up and swept away like toys. Streets turn into rivers. Bridges fall apart. Landscapes get rearranged overnight. Flash floods are especially dangerous because they arrive with almost no warning. Often the skies seem calm just a few miles upstream. For people caught in their path, the power of moving water is unforgettable. It is the voice of gravity made stronger by storm. It reminds us that weather can turn the softest element, water, into one of Earth's most devastating forces. Fact 38. Some droughts have lasted for hundreds of years. When the rains stop coming, the world changes slowly but deeply. Crops die, rivers shrink, soils crack and turn to dust. Most droughts last for months or a few years. But in Earth's past, some droughts have stretched for centuries. These mega droughts have left marks in tree rings, lake beds, and even the ruins of civilizations that disappeared. In North America, evidence shows that the western United States went through droughts lasting hundreds of years during medieval times. These droughts were far longer than anything we see today. Such long droughts reshape entire regions. They transform forests into grasslands. They turn grasslands into deserts. People are forced to move away, leave their settlements, or adapt in extraordinary ways. Drought is a silent kind of weather. There are no storms, no thunder, no dramatic events, just an absence that stretches on and on until landscapes and histories bend beneath it. In its quiet way, a drought can be just as powerful as a hurricane or a flood. Fact 39. El Niño can shift weather across the entire planet. Every few years, the Pacific Ocean warms in something called El Niño. When this happens, the atmosphere responds. Winds change direction. Ocean currents shift. Weather patterns ripple outward across the entire globe. South America gets hit with heavy rains, parts of Asia suffer through drought. Hurricanes, monsoons, and even winter storms in North America can all be changed by the pulse of El Niño. What starts as a change in ocean temperature near the equator creates consequences, too felt thousands of miles away. It is one of the clearest examples of how connected Earth systems are. The ocean and the atmosphere move together in rhythm. They touch weather on every continent. For farmers, fishermen, and scientists, El Niño is both a challenge and a mystery. It reminds us that the heartbeat of the planet's climate is not set by one place alone. Fact 40. La Niña brings the opposite effect with cooling winds. After El Niño often comes its opposite called La Niña. During La Niña periods, the Pacific Ocean's surface cools down. The winds that sweep across it become stronger. The effects are just as global, but they are reversed. Drought might strike where rains once poured heavily. Hurricanes might form in new regions. Winters in some parts of the world become harsher. Though we cannot see these shifts with our eyes, they are powerful enough to change rainfall in Africa. They alter typhoons in Asia. They shift storm tracks across North America. To think that the cooling of ocean waters in one part of the globe can steer weather thousands of miles away helps us glimpse how deeply connected the planet is. Fact 41. Ocean currents act like giant rivers of heat. Beneath the ocean's surface flow currents so vast and steady they are like hidden rivers. Unlike rivers of fresh water on land, these ocean currents are driven by temperature, winds, and the rotation of Earth. They transport enormous amounts of heat around the globe. They redistribute the sun's energy and help balance the climate. Warm water from the equator drifts toward the poles. Meanwhile, colder water sinks down and slides back toward the tropics. Without these invisible rivers, much of Earth would be impossible to live on. The equatorial zones would be sweltering hot. The mid-latitudes would be frozen. Instead, ocean currents act like Earth's hidden thermostat. They moderate extremes. From space, the swirling patterns they form look like spirals of living art. They are vast enough to cover entire oceans. To stand on a shore and feel a warm current brushing past your feet is to touch the edge of a system that ties continents together. It is an endless flow linking all weather. Fact 42. The Gulf Stream helps keep Europe warm in winter. Europe is located far north on the same latitude as Canada. Yet winters there are much milder than in Canada. The reason flows across the Atlantic Ocean. It is called the Gulf Stream. This powerful ocean current carries warm water from the Gulf of Mexico northeastward. As it travels, it releases its heat into the air above it. By the time it reaches Europe, the air above the current is warmer than it would otherwise be. This softens the chill of winter. Without the Gulf Stream, much of northern Europe would face climates closer to Siberia. Farmers, cities, and entire cultures have been shaped by this steady river of warmth. Scientists watch the Gulf Stream closely because shifts in it could have dramatic impacts worldwide. For now, though, it remains one of Earth's most important lifelines. It is a conveyor of heat. It is a hidden partner in the dance of weather and climate. Fact 43. The polar vortex can push Arctic cold into the south. Far above the North Pole swirls a mass of icy air. This is known as the polar vortex. Normally, this freezing circulation is trapped high in the atmosphere. It is contained by strong winds that spin around it. But sometimes, the vortex weakens and wobbles. When this happens, it spills Arctic cold southward. Regions far from the poles suddenly find themselves in the grip of extreme cold. Places like the American Midwest or Central Europe can see temperatures plunge to dangerous levels. These outbreaks can freeze rivers, they can paralyze cities, they can shatter temperature records. The term polar vortex has become familiar in news headlines, but the phenomenon itself is not new. It is part of the natural rhythm of Earth's atmosphere. It is a reminder that the Arctic is not sealed away from the rest of the world. It is connected to us all. The next time icy air sweeps unexpectedly across your city, you might be feeling the edge of that vast spinning crown of cold far above the North Pole. Fact 44. A volcanic eruption can change weather worldwide. When a volcano erupts with immense force, its effects reach far beyond the mountain itself. Explosive eruptions blast ash and gases high into the stratosphere. Winds up there spread them around the entire globe. Tiny particles of sulfur dioxide can stay in the air for months or even years. They reflect sunlight back into space. This cools the planet. The eruption of Mount Tambora in 1815 caused what became known as the Year Without a Summer. Rivers froze in the middle of summer. Skies turned hazy with ash. More recently, the eruption of Mount Pinatubo in 1991 lowered temperatures around the world for several years. Volcanic eruptions are a stark reminder of how tightly linked Earth's systems are. A mountain's fury can alter the balance of sunlight and air worldwide. In weather, even the fire of the Earth itself has a voice. It whispers through the clouds and storms. Fact 45. Forest fires can create their own lightning. When a forest burns with intense heat, flames can rise hundreds of feet into the air. The heat drives powerful columns of air upward. These updrafts lift ash and smoke high into the sky. Inside these clouds, particles collide with each other. They generate static electricity just like in a thunderstorm. The result is something called pyrocumulus clouds. These are storm clouds born from fire. They can unleash their own lightning bolts back down onto the burning forest below. These lightning strikes can start new fires. This creates a cycle where fire feeds on itself. Firefighters sometimes see skies flashing with lightning even as flames roar on the ground below. It is an eerie combination of fire and storm happening at the same time. This phenomenon shows that weather is not only a force acting upon landscapes. Weather can also be created by landscapes. A burning forest becomes its own weather system. It comes alive with thunder and fire. It is an intense reminder of how nature can amplify itself in extraordinary ways. Fact 46. Smoke from fires can seed strange new clouds. When huge wildfires send smoke plumes high into the sky, they do more than just darken the horizon. The tiny particles inside smoke can act as seeds around which water vapor condenses. This forms clouds. Sometimes these clouds grow thick enough to cast wide shadows across the land below. They change temperatures on the ground. In extreme cases, smoke-driven clouds climb all the way into the stratosphere. There they can travel thousands of miles away from the original fire. They might stay up there for weeks. They subtly shift weather patterns far from where the fire started. The sight is haunting. Clouds with unusual colours appear. They are tinted orange or grey. They glow red when sunlight shines through them. Pilots have reported flying through smoky skies so dense it feels like twilight at noon. These clouds are not born from the sea or sky. They are born from the flames of Earth itself. They prove that fire and weather are connected. Each is capable of creating and shaping the other in unexpected ways. Fact 47. Dust from the Sahara Desert travels all the way to the Amazon. Every year, winds lift millions of tons of fine dust from the Sahara Desert. They carry it high into the atmosphere. These dust clouds cross the Atlantic Ocean. Sometimes you can see them in satellite images. They look like golden veils stretching for thousands of miles. Eventually, much of this dust falls onto the Amazon rainforest. There it delivers essential nutrients, especially phosphorus. This enriches the soil. Without this journey across the ocean, parts of the Amazon might struggle to support its incredible variety of life. The idea that one of the driest places on Earth helps feed one of the wettest and most lush places is powerful. It reminds us how interconnected the planet is. Even the air is like a conveyor belt. It links desert and jungle in an unseen exchange. When you breathe in air that has been touched by distant lands, you might be inhaling fine dust from ancient sand dunes. That dust travelled across oceans to help sustain life in another hemisphere. Fact 48. Hurricanes can churn the sea until it glows with plankton light. Hurricanes are famous for their destructive winds and rain, but beneath the waves, they stir another wonder. As the massive storm churns the ocean, it stirs up plankton. Sailors have reported sailing through seas that glow with a ghostly blue light during storms. The surface of the water lights up as though it is alive. This glowing effect is called bioluminescence. It is created by chemical reactions inside the plankton. It is a defense mechanism that gets triggered by rough movement. Though satellites cannot see this glow from space, people who witness it never forget it. A hurricane roars above while the sea below gets painted with light. These glowing oceans remind us that weather touches every layer of the planet. From the atmosphere down to the deepest waters, even in destruction, storms create moments of strange beauty. Life itself responds to the violence of wind and wave with flashes of living fire. Fact 49. Weather helps carve mountains into valleys. Mountains might seem eternal and unchanging, but weather is always working to reshape them. Rain seeps into cracks in the rock. When it freezes, it expands. This breaks the rock apart bit by bit. Wind scours exposed cliffs. It carries away tiny grains of sand. Rivers slice into the slopes. They cut deep valleys and canyons. Over millions of years, even the mightiest mountain peaks get worn down. Their sharp edges become softer. Their summits get lower. The Himalayas and Rockies are still rising because of forces deep inside Earth, but weather battles them with endless patience. Every landslide, every rockfall, and every rushing stream is part of the quiet, chiseling work of the atmosphere. Without weather's erosion, Earth would be a harsher and sharper place. Instead, it is weather that sculpts the rounded hills, fertile valleys, and winding rivers we see. When you stand in a canyon or look at a worn mountain face, you're seeing weather's artwork. It is etched in stone across countless ages. Fact 50. Wind can sculpt stone into arches and spires. In deserts around the world, strange shapes rise from the ground. There are arches, tall spires, and rocks shaped like mushrooms. They seem almost alien. These are sculptures created by wind. The wind carries sand like a natural sand blaster. Over centuries, it carves into rock. It erodes soft layers while leaving harder ones behind. Some formations stand like towering pillars reaching toward the sky. Others curve into perfect arches that frame the sky beautifully. Monument Valley in the United States, the stone arches of Utah, and the wind-sculpted rocks of the Sahara are all products of this endless work. Though wind might feel gentle on your skin, over time it has the strength to carve landscapes that look designed by an artist's hand. To walk among these formations is to wander through a gallery of natural sculptures. Each one was shaped not by tools or chisels but by invisible currents of air. They were carved grain by grain across stone over vast stretches of time. Fact 51. Lightning strikes can turn sand into glass. When lightning hits sandy soil, its immense heat can melt grains of quartz into glass. The strike fuses the sand into hollow branching structures. These are called fulgurites. They resemble frozen lightning in solid form. These fragile tubes can stretch for several feet underground. Their surfaces are rippled and glossy from molten minerals. Each fulgurite is a record of a single lightning strike. It is a signature of fire etched into the earth. Fulgurites are rare treasures for collectors and geologists. Each piece is a natural sculpture born in an instant of ferocious energy. The next time you see lightning fork across the sky, imagine that beneath the ground it might be leaving behind glassy tunnels. They are reminders of the storm's brief but extraordinary touch upon the Earth. Fact 52. Glaciers move like rivers of ice, reshaping continents. To the eye, glaciers seem motionless. They look like frozen rivers stretching through valleys. But they are always moving. They flow at speeds that can range from a few centimeters to several meters per day. They grind mountains into U-shaped valleys. They drag boulders for miles. They polish rock into smooth plains. During the last ice age, glaciers covered much of North America and Europe. They reshaped entire continents as they advanced and retreated. Today their remnants remain in Greenland, Antarctica, and high mountain ranges. They are still sculpting the land. To stand near one is to feel the weight of time itself. It is a river not of water but of solid ice moving with patient strength. Glaciers are living landscapes. They are slow, unstoppable, and transformative. They whisper of ancient winters and the power of weather frozen into motion. Fact 53. Avalanches can move faster than cars on a highway. High in snowy mountains, a fragile balance often exists between slope and snow. When that balance breaks, an avalanche can begin. What starts as a small slide quickly speeds up. It gathers snow, ice, and debris into a roaring river. Avalanches can reach speeds of over 80 miles per hour. That is faster than cars on a highway. They have the crushing power to sweep away forests, buildings, and roads. The sound is like thunder rolling down a mountainside. Once it begins, nothing can stop it. For skiers and climbers, avalanches are a constant danger. They can be triggered by weather, by weight, or even by a single footstep. Yet they are also part of the mountain's natural cycle. They redistribute snow, they shape slopes, they feed valleys below. Watching one from a safe distance is to witness nature's sudden fury. It can transform into a surging river of destruction in seconds. Fact 54. Icebergs hide nearly 90% of their mass underwater. The phrase tip of the iceberg comes from a striking truth. What we see above the surface is only a tiny fraction of what lies below. Icebergs break off from glaciers or ice shelves. They float in the ocean with most of their bulk hidden beneath the waves. The rest lurks underwater, vast and invisible. This hidden mass makes icebergs very dangerous for ships. The Titanic tragedy proved this. Some icebergs are small, but others are massive. They can be taller than skyscrapers and stretch for miles in length. As they drift, they release fresh water into the sea. This subtly changes ocean currents and ecosystems. The idea that something so immense can float silently, mostly unseen, captures the imagination. Icebergs are monuments of frozen time. They slowly melt into the ocean. Their true size is revealed only to the deep waters that cradle them. Fact 55. Permafrost locks away ancient life forms. In the frozen soils of the Arctic and Siberia lies permafrost. This is ground that has remained frozen for thousands of years. Trapped within it are seeds, microbes, and even the remains of extinct animals like mammoths. As long as the permafrost stays frozen, these remnants remain preserved. They are sealed away in Earth's freezer. But when it thaws, ancient secrets awaken. Scientists have revived seeds that are tens of thousands of years old. They have even brought back microbes that had been dormant for millennia. Thawing permafrost also releases methane and carbon dioxide. These are gases that can affect global climate. To touch permafrost is to touch time itself. It is a layer of soil that bridges the living present and the frozen past. Beneath your feet may lie not just ice and dirt, but echoes of worlds long gone. They are locked away until weather and warming air decide to release them once more. Fact 56. Glacial meltwater can create rivers that roar under the ice. Though glaciers seem solid and silent, they are riddled with hidden rivers. As the sun warms their surfaces, meltwater seeps into cracks and tunnels. It plunges deep into the ice. There it gathers into roaring streams that carve channels beneath the glacier. They echo like underground thunder. These rivers can grow powerful enough to lift the glacier itself slightly off the ground. This lubricates its movement. Sometimes meltwater bursts suddenly from beneath. It floods valleys in what are called jokullaups, or glacial outburst floods. It is a place where water and ice are constantly in conversation. These hidden rivers remind us that glaciers are not inert blocks. They are dynamic landscapes alive with the pulse of weather and water flowing unseen beneath the frozen surface. Fact 57. Weather drives the migration of animals across continents. All over the world, animals move with the weather. Birds chase the warmth of the Sunday whales, follow shifting seas. Caribou cross tundras as the seasons turn. These migrations are among the most extraordinary spectacles in nature. Weather is the unseen compass guiding them. Winds carry monarch butterflies across thousands of miles. Ocean currents steer schools of fish. Rainfall patterns dictate where herds can graze. Even small changes in weather can shift these vast movements. They alter ancient routes. To watch a migration is to see weather translated into motion. Storms, winds, and rains are woven into the very instincts of life. Without weather's cycles, the great migrations of Earth would not exist. Countless species would lose their way. Each journey is a moving story written in the air itself. Weather guides the travellers of land, sea, and sky. Fact 58. Monarch butterflies follow weather patterns for thousands of miles. Every autumn, millions of monarch butterflies embark on one of the longest migrations in the insect world. They travel up to 3,000 miles from Canada and the northern United States to forests in central Mexico. Their fragile wings carry them across plains, mountains, and even the Gulf of Mexico. They are guided in part by the sun, the magnetic field, and the weather. They ride tailwinds when possible to save energy. They wait out storms when conditions are too fierce. Generations of monarchs complete this cycle. Each one inherits the journey from ancestors that never returned. The weather along their path determines their success. A strong storm can devastate a population. Favourable winds can speed them on their way. That such delicate creatures can cross a continent carried and challenged by weather is breathtaking. It reminds us how the atmosphere we live in connects all forms of life. Fact 59. Birds ride invisible rivers of rising warm air. High above fields and forests, birds often soar without flapping their wings. They circle gracefully, as though suspended in invisible currents. These currents are called thermals. They are rising columns of warm air created when the sun heats the ground unevenly. Birds, especially large ones like hawks, storks, and vultures, use them to travel vast distances with little effort. By finding one thermal after another, they can glide for hours. They conserve energy on long migrations. From the ground, their circling patterns look lazy and serene, but in truth, they are navigating an invisible map of weather. Pilots of gliders also use these same thermals. They soar silently alongside birds. Thermals are a reminder that the atmosphere is not empty space. It is a living landscape of rising and falling air. For those who can sense it, whether feathered or human, these invisible rivers become pathways across the sky. Fact 60. Locust swarms are guided by rainfall. For centuries, locust swarms have been feared for their ability to strip landscapes bare in hours. These insect armies can number in the billions. They can stretch for miles, darkening the sky as they pass. What triggers them is deeply tied to weather. Locusts thrive after periods of rainfall that transform deserts into green fields. With food abundant, their populations explode. They shift into swarming mode. Winds and storms then carry them across continents. Sometimes they travel hundreds of miles in a single day. Ancient records describe locust swarms as punishments from God. But we now know they are weather's offspring. They are born from cycles of drought and rain. To stand in the path of a swarm is to witness the atmosphere's influence made visible in countless wings. Each insect is small, but together, guided by weather, they become one of nature's most formidable forces. Fact 61. Coral reefs bleach when seas grow too hot. Coral reefs are among the most vibrant ecosystems on Earth. They are home to countless species of fish, invertebrates, and plants. Yet they are also fragile. Corals live in partnership with tiny algae called zooxanthellae. These algae provide them with both food and colour. When ocean waters grow too warm, the corals expel these algae in distress. They turn ghostly white. This phenomenon is called bleaching. Without their algae partners, corals can starve. They leave behind lifeless skeletons where bustling reefs once thrived. Bleaching events have been increasing in recent decades. They threaten reefs across the tropics. From space, satellites can even see these vast pale patches spreading across oceans. But corals are resilient. When conditions improve, they sometimes recover after years of rest. Watching a reef bleach is like seeing a living rainbow fade to bone. It is a reminder of how intimately weather and climate tie to the health of even the ocean's smallest creatures. Fact 62. Weather shifts have ended entire civilizations. History is often told as a story of kings and wars, but weather has quietly shaped it from the beginning. Prolonged droughts have dried rivers that sustained cities. Floods have swallowed farmland. Shifts in monsoons have starved empires. Archaeological evidence shows that entire civilizations collapsed after sudden climate changes. From the Akkadian Empire in Mesopotamia to the great cities of the Indus Valley, crops failed, trade routes withered, and people were forced to abandon homes built over centuries. Weather does not always destroy with storms or fire. Sometimes it unravels societies slowly, like a thread pulled from a tapestry. When we look at ruined temples or empty cities, we often see the fingerprints of climate. It is also a story of skies that gave or withheld, winds that shifted, and rains that never came. Fact 63. A single drought may have toppled the Mayan Empire. Deep in the jungles of Central America, the ancient Maya built soaring cities. They observed the stars. They carved their histories into stone. But by the 9th century, many of their great cities were abandoned. What caused this collapse has been debated for years. One of the strongest clues comes from weather. Sediment cores and cave formations show evidence of a prolonged drought. It lasted for decades, with rainfall dropping sharply in the region. Without water, crops failed. Conflicts grew. Populations dwindled. The mighty pyramids and ball courts fell silent. They were swallowed by jungle. The Maya people themselves survived, but their empire fractured and changed forever. The thought that shifts in weather, invisible winds, and absent rains could topple such a powerful culture is humbling. It is a reminder that human history is inseparable from climate. Even the greatest cities depend on the sky. Fact 64. Ancient battles were won or lost because of storms. The outcome of wars has often hinged not on strategy alone, but on weather. In 1588, the Spanish Armada set sail to invade England. They were scattered and sunk by fierce storms in the North Atlantic. Centuries earlier, Kublai Khan's fleets were destroyed by typhoons when he tried to invade Japan. These storms were called kamikaze, or divine winds, by the Japanese. Even in more recent times, mud, rain, and snow have stalled armies and reshaped campaigns. Napoleon's retreat from Russia was made catastrophic by brutal winter cold. The D-Day landings of World War II succeeded only because meteorologists found a brief window of favourable weather. Storms do not take sides, but they have changed the course of history. They decide the fate of nations in hours. In the chaos of battle, the sky above is sometimes the most powerful commander of all. Fact 65. The Little Ice Age froze rivers in the heart of Europe. From the 14th to the 19th century, Earth passed through a period known as the Little Ice Age. Winters grew longer and harsher. Glaciers advanced. Crops struggled in the cold. In Europe, the River Thames in London froze solid many times. It became thick enough to hold entire festivals upon its icy surface. Paintings from that time show frost fairs with tents, markets, and even ice skating on the frozen river. In the Netherlands, canals froze so often that ice skating became woven into the culture. Though not a true ice age, the period was cold enough to leave its mark on art, food, and history. Volcanoes, changes in solar activity, and shifting ocean currents all played a role in this centuries-long chill. To imagine major rivers frozen into solid streets of ice is to glimpse how even modest changes in climate ripple through human lives. Fact 66. Cities create heat islands warmer than the countryside. Walk from a shaded park into a downtown core on a summer afternoon, and you might feel like you have stepped into a hotter world. Cities absorb and trap heat more effectively than natural landscapes. This creates what scientists call urban heat islands. Asphalt, concrete, and steel soak up the sun's energy during the day. They release it slowly at night. This keeps temperatures several degrees warmer than surrounding rural areas. Skyscrapers block wind. Air conditioners vent hot air outside. Vehicle exhaust adds to the effect. These heat islands can make heat waves more dangerous, especially at night when cooling relief never comes. Solutions exist. Planting trees, painting rooftops white, and creating green spaces all help. Still, the phenomenon shows how human design reshapes weather on a local scale. The city itself becomes a climate. It is a man-made island of heat glowing against the cooler countryside around it. Fact 67. Skyscrapers can bend and accelerate local winds. Stand at the base of a tall skyscraper and you might notice the wind suddenly rushes harder. This effect is caused by the way tall buildings channel air. As wind meets a wall of glass and steel, it is forced downward and around the structure. This creates gusts far stronger than in open areas. In some cities, these winds are powerful enough to knock over bicycles, flip umbrellas, and make walking difficult. Architects now design buildings with curved shapes or open sections to ease these urban gales. But they remain a striking example of how human structures interact with weather. From the top of a skyscraper, the winds may be steady and serene, but at street level, the air can swirl with surprising violence. The skyline is not just a backdrop. It reshapes the atmosphere itself. It bends the invisible flow of air into new patterns. Fact 68. Air pollution can make sunsets burn brighter. Sunsets are always beautiful, but sometimes they glow with an intensity that seems unreal. Blazing oranges, deep crimsons, and streaks of purple stretch across the horizon. Dust, smoke, or pollution scatter shorter wavelengths of light. They let only the deeper reds and oranges reach our eyes. After major volcanic eruptions, sunsets around the world have been described as fiery and surreal. They are painted by ash suspended high in the stratosphere. While pollution is harmful to health, it also demonstrates how small changes in the atmosphere can alter the canvas of the sky. Every sunset is a collaboration between sunlight and air. It is shaped by the particles drifting unseen above us. When you see a crimson horizon, you are looking not only at the sun's glow but at the hidden fingerprints of weather and atmosphere painted into light. Fact 69. Clouds can be seeded with particles to make rain. In some regions desperate for water, humans have tried to coax clouds into releasing their rain. This process is called cloud seeding. It involves releasing particles like silver iodide or dry ice into the sky. These particles act as nuclei, around which water vapor condenses. They help droplets grow large enough to fall as rain. Cloud seeding has been attempted since the mid-20th century with mixed results. Sometimes it increases rainfall by a modest percentage. Planes, rockets, or even ground-based generators release the particles. They turn weather into a field experiment. Though not a miracle solution, cloud seeding has been used in countries such as China, the United States, and the United Arab Emirates. The very idea that humans can nudge clouds into producing rain is striking. It reminds us of how we interact with weather. It is the atmosphere's own alchemy harnessed by science in moments of need. Fact 70. Red skies in the evening often do predict the next day's weather. Red sky at night, sailor's delight. Red sky in morning, sailor take warning. This old saying has roots in real atmospheric science. At sunset, a red sky often means that dry, dusty air is present to the west, where weather systems typically approach. A red sky at sunrise, however, may indicate that this same dry air has already passed. Unsettled weather may follow. The scattering of sunlight through particles and moisture paints the sky with crimson hues. It is a visible clue to the state of the atmosphere. While not always perfect, the rhyme carries wisdom tested over centuries. The colours of dawn and dusk are more than beauty. They are messages from the sky. They are ancient forecasts painted in light. Fact 71. A rainbow is a circle, but we usually see only half from the ground. Rainbows appear as graceful arcs across the sky, but in truth, they are full circles of light. We usually see only the top half because the horizon blocks the rest. Pilots, however, sometimes report seeing complete circular rainbows when looking down on storms from above. Each rainbow forms when sunlight enters raindrops. The light bends, reflects off the inner surface of the drop, and bends again as it leaves. This bending splits light into its spectrum of colours. It fans them into a circle of brilliance. The size of the circle depends on the angle of the sunday, but it always exists in full. To realise that the rainbow we see is just a partial glimpse adds a hidden layer of wonder. What feels like an arc above us is actually a complete wheel of colour. It is a perfect circle of light written into falling rain. Fact 72. Double rainbows reveal light's hidden paths. Sometimes, if conditions are just right, a rainbow appears with a fainter twin above it. This double rainbow is created when sunlight reflects twice inside raindrops instead of once. The second reflection sends light back at a different angle. This forms the outer arc. In this secondary rainbow, the colours are reversed. Red appears on the inside and violet on the outside. The space between the two rainbows is called Alexander's band. It often looks darker because less light reaches it. Double rainbows are not rare, but they always feel magical. They fill the sky with twin arcs of colour. Poets and artists have celebrated them for centuries. Scientists see them as elegant demonstrations of optics in action. Each rainbow is already a wonder, but when two appear, it feels as though the sky is revealing secret layers of its light. It doubles the beauty of the storm's afterglow. Fact 73. Sun dogs sparkle like extra suns on icy days. On very cold days, when ice crystals drift high in the atmosphere, strange companions may appear beside the sunday. These are called sun dogs. They are bright spots of light that sparkle on either side of the sun like phantom stars. They form when sunlight bends through hexagonal ice crystals in cirrus clouds. The light splits into colours similar to a rainbow. Sometimes sundogs glow faintly like halos. Other times they blaze brilliantly, creating the illusion of three suns shining in the sky. Sundogs are best seen when the sun is low on the horizon. They often appear during sunrise or sunset in winter. For ancient peoples, they were omens. They were signs of power or mystery in the heavens. For us, they are dazzling demonstrations of how ordinary light interacts with the icy breath of the atmosphere. Fact 74. Halos appear when sunlight bends through crystal clouds. Look up on a frosty day, and you may see a ring of light encircling the sun or the moon. This is called a halo. It forms when light passes through countless tiny ice crystals, floating in high, thin clouds. The crystals bend the light at precise angles. This creates a glowing circle around the brightest object in the sky. Halos often signal that a weather front is approaching. The cirrus clouds that create them are the first signs of changing conditions. They can shimmer in pure white or show faint rainbow colours along their edges. Moon halos that glow at night feel especially ethereal. They look like pale rings floating against the darkness. These simple shapes are products of countless crystals drifting silently. Each one bends light in the same way. A halo is both a forecast and a work of skyborne geometry. Fact 75. Mirages can make whole lakes appear where none exist. On hot summer days, desert travellers and highway drivers alike may glimpse shimmering pools of water on the horizon. Walk closer, and the water vanishes. This is a mirage. This illusion happens when layers of hot air near the ground bend light upward. Instead of coming straight to your eyes, light from the sky curves. This creates the appearance of water reflecting above. These optical tricks can be so convincing that ancient travellers chased them only to find more sand instead of relief. Even today, mirages can trick the eye into seeing floating ships, distant lakes, or distortions in the road ahead. It is the atmosphere's playful bending of light. In their fleeting shimmer, mirages are weather's illusions. They blend physics and art into visions that dissolve as quickly as they appear. Fact 76. Superior mirages can make ships float in the sky. In polar regions and over cold seas, another kind of mirage can appear. One that is stranger still. It is called a superior mirage. It happens when layers of cold and warm air bend light downward instead of upward. Ships that are beyond the horizon may seem to float in the air above the water. Castles may hover above the waves. Coastlines can appear doubled or stretched in bizarre ways. Sailors once told stories of ghostly fleets suspended above the ocean. This bending of light can create shapes so surreal that they inspired myths of phantom lands and enchanted islands. Though the explanation is scientific, the effect is no less magical. A superior mirage is a reminder that the atmosphere is a lens constantly reshaping what we see. It can turn the ordinary into the extraordinary. It can make ships sail not on water but across the sky itself, drifting through clouds like vessels in a dream. Fact 77. The green flash appears for seconds at sunset. At the precise moment the sun slips below the horizon, some observers glimpse a fleeting emerald sparkle. This is called the green flash. This rare phenomenon occurs because the atmosphere bends light into its spectrum of colours. Blue and violet wavelengths scatter away into the sky. Red wavelengths pass straight through without bending much. But green lingers just long enough to flare brilliantly before the sun disappears completely. Usually it happens over the sea, where the horizon is clear and unobstructed. Scientists now understand it as a product of optics and atmospheric refraction, but that understanding does not lessen its wonder. To see a green flash is to witness a secret of the sky. It is a final flourish of colour hidden in the sunset's fade. Few people have seen it with their own eyes, but those who have never forget that sudden moment of green fire painting the horizon. Fact 78. Moonbows glow faintly under a full moon. Rainbows are common after storms during the day, but under the light of the full moon, the same effect can occur on a far subtler scale. These are called moonbows or lunar rainbows. They are arcs of pale light formed when moonlight bends through raindrops at night. Because moonlight is much weaker than sunlight, moonbows usually appear white to the naked eye. Their colours are too faint for our eyes to distinguish easily. However, with long exposure photography, their soft spectrum of colours is revealed in all its beauty. To see a moonbow is rare and requires perfect conditions. There must be rain on one side of the sky and a bright full moon low on the other side. Moonbows were considered magical. They were seen as glowing bridges in the night sky. They remain among the most delicate spectacles of weather, a quiet echo of rainbows that feels more like a dream than reality. It is a rainbow painted not by the blazing sun but by the moon's gentle silver glow. Fact 79. Lightning can strike the same place more than a dozen times. There is a common myth that lightning never strikes the same place twice. But the truth is the complete opposite. Lightning often favors tall conductive objects. It returns to them again and again during storms. The Empire State Building in New York is struck about 25 times each year on average. Television towers, mountain peaks, and even lone trees standing in open fields can be hit repeatedly during a single storm. They help the electrical charge leap more easily from sky to ground. Lightning is not random chaos following no rules. It follows the laws of physics, always seeking the easiest route to complete its circuit. Knowing this helps engineers design lightning rods to protect buildings. The rods attract strikes safely away from sensitive structures. So while lightning may seem unpredictable and wild, it is also strangely loyal. It returns to familiar places time after time, leaving behind its fiery signature in the same spots again and again throughout the years. Fact 80. Ball lightning has been seen glowing inside airplanes. Among the strangest and most mysterious weather phenomena is something called ball lightning. These are glowing orbs of light that sometimes appear during thunderstorms. Witnesses describe them as spheres ranging from a few centimeters to several meters across. They glow in colors of white, yellow, orange, or even blue. They drift slowly through the air, sometimes hovering in place, sometimes darting unpredictably in erratic patterns. Often they vanish with a bang or a hiss. One of the most astonishing reports came from an airplane in the 1960s. Passengers saw a ball of light drift calmly down the aisle of the plane before disappearing without explanation. Scientists still do not fully understand what ball lightning actually is. Some theories suggest it might be plasma. Others think it could be burning vapor or something else entirely. It is so rare and brief that many scientists once doubted its existence completely. But too many accounts from pilots, sailors, and storm watchers confirm its reality. Ball lightning remains one of the atmosphere's great mysteries. A ghostly fire wandering briefly through the storm before fading back into darkness. Fact 81. Sprites flash red high above thunderclouds. Most lightning strikes downward, flashing between storm clouds and the ground below. But high above the thunderheads, strange and fleeting lights sometimes appear in the upper atmosphere. These are called sprites. They are vast bursts of reddish light stretching upward into the thin air like ghostly jellyfish floating in the sky. They occur when strong lightning discharges disturb the electric field in the air above the storm. This sends energy upward instead of down toward the ground. Sprites can span tens of miles in height, reaching from the top of storm clouds almost to the edge of space. But they last for only milliseconds, so quick that the naked eye often misses them entirely. Pilots flying at cruising altitude sometimes glimpse them dancing above distant storms on the horizon. Modern high-speed cameras have captured their eerie beauty in stunning detail. Sprites remind us that storms are not confined to the clouds we see from the ground. They reach upward into the edge of space itself, painting the thin air with fiery red strokes that few ever witness. Fact 82. Blue jets shoot lightning upward into space. While sprites glow red above storms, their cousins called blue jets flash in a different direction. They shoot upward from the tops of thunderclouds into the stratosphere. They appear as narrow cones of blue light piercing toward the edge of space. Blue jets are rare and difficult to study because they happen so quickly and are hard to observe from the ground. But astronauts aboard the International Space Station have witnessed them firsthand. They describe luminous spears rising from storms far below, reaching toward the stars. Scientists believe blue jets form when electrical charges build up at the tops of clouds. They release this energy into the thin upper air above. Unlike ordinary lightning which strikes the ground, blue jets are lightning's skyward escape. They reveal that storms are not isolated events happening in one place. They are part of a larger atmospheric circuit stretching from the surface all the way to the heavens. To think of lightning reaching for the stars rather than the earth is to glimpse the secret pathways of electricity hidden in the highest layers of our atmosphere. Fact 83. Volcanoes can unleash storms of electric fire. During a volcanic eruption, the earth itself seems to roar with unimaginable power. It spits lava, ash, and smoke into the sky. But within these towering clouds of ash, something even stranger happens. Volcanic lightning appears. As ash particles collide and rub together in the eruption plume, they generate static electrical charges. This is similar to how ice crystals create charges in thunderstorms. Bolts of lightning then erupt within the dark plume, crackling across the night sky. These volcanic storms can be so intense that entire skies glow with electric fire, illuminating landscapes with eerie brilliance that looks apocalyptic. The mountain spews flame below, while the heavens tear with light above. Scientists study these storms to better understand the fundamental processes of how lightning forms in different conditions. But for those who see it in person, no scientific explanation is needed to feel the overwhelming awe. Volcanic lightning is nature's double storm. Fire and electricity joined together in a display of power. A reminder that Earth's weather is as fierce beneath the surface as it is above in the atmosphere. Fact 84. The most powerful storm ever measured was on Earth. Though other planets host immense tempests that dwarf anything we know, Earth itself has produced storms of staggering force. The title of the most intense tropical cyclone belongs to Typhoon Tip in 1979. At its peak strength, it stretched more than 1,300 miles across. That is nearly half the width of the entire United States. Its central pressure dropped lower than any other measured storm in recorded history. This is a sign of its immense strength and organization. Winds howled at speeds exceeding 190 miles per hour. Torrential rains flooded entire regions. From satellites orbiting above, Typhoon Tip appeared as a perfect spiral, a monstrous pinwheel covering the western Pacific Ocean. Though it eventually weakened before making landfall, its sheer size and intensity remain unmatched to this day. To imagine a single storm large enough to blanket continents is humbling. Even here on Earth, where we think we know the atmosphere well, the sky still proves capable of conjuring storms of truly unimaginable scale and power that challenge our understanding. Fact 85. Jupiter's Great Red Spot has raged for centuries without end. If you peer through a telescope at the giant planet Jupiter, you will see a vast oval swirling in its southern hemisphere. This is called the Great Red Spot. This is no ordinary storm, but a colossal cyclone wider than the entire planet Earth. It has been spinning continuously for at least 300 years and likely much longer. Its winds reach speeds over 400 miles per hour, churning ammonia clouds into bands of crimson and beige. Unlike hurricanes on Earth, which fade away in days or weeks, the Great Red Spot endures year after year. It is fueled by Jupiter's immense atmosphere and internal energy. It has changed over time, shrinking slightly in recent decades. Its colours have shifted from deep red to pale orange and back again, but it continues to spin relentlessly. A symbol of planetary fury on a scale we can barely comprehend. Astronomers track it like a living creature, a storm that began before telescopes were invented and still rages today. To think of a storm that has outlasted generations of human observers is to feel the vast scale of time and weather beyond our world. Fact 86. Saturn's hexagonal storm spins perfectly around its pole. A giant six-sided storm encircles its north pole in a perfect geometric shape. This hexagon is larger than the entire planet Earth. It is a swirling jet stream locked into a bizarre polygon that defies our usual expectations of nature. First discovered by the Voyager spacecraft in the 1980s, it has persisted for decades without losing its shape. Scientists believe that differences in wind speed at different latitudes create standing waves in the atmosphere. From above, the hexagon looks almost unreal. It appears as though it was drawn by some cosmic artist rather than shaped by natural forces. Within it, smaller storms rage and spiral. Meanwhile, the hexagon itself rotates steadily and maintains its structure. No other planet shows a storm quite like this remarkable formation. Saturn's hexagon is a reminder that weather is not always chaotic and formless. Sometimes it creates patterns of surprising elegance, carving mathematical order into the endless turbulence of planetary skies. Fact 87. Uranus has winds faster than sound on Earth. Distant Uranus may appear calm from our vantage point. It looks like a pale blue-green sphere tilted on its side in the outer solar system. But beneath its tranquil appearance lurk some of the fastest winds ever measured on any planet. Jet streams race around Uranus at speeds of up to 1,200 miles per hour. That is faster than the speed of sound traveling through Earth's atmosphere. These supersonic winds whip through an atmosphere composed of hydrogen, helium, and methane. They sculpt faint cloud bands that are barely visible even through powerful telescopes. Scientists are still unsure why Uranus generates such fierce winds despite receiving so little energy from the distant Sunday. Its unusual tilted axis, mysterious interior structure, and remote orbit all play roles in its enigmatic weather patterns. From Earth, we see only a serene disk hanging in space. But up close, Uranus is anything but calm. It is a world of supersonic winds howling in darkness. Storms rage in silence across a frozen giant, reminding us that appearances can be deeply deceiving in the cosmos. Fact 88. Neptune's dark storms are supersonic hurricanes. Neptune, the farthest planet from our Sun, is home to some of the most violent weather in the entire solar system. In 1989, the Voyager 2 spacecraft captured stunning images of a massive dark storm swirling across its surface. This storm was similar in appearance to Jupiter's Great Red Spot. These storms, known as Great Dark Spots, are immense hurricanes with winds reaching 1,300 miles per hour. They can span thousands upon thousands of miles and last for years before mysteriously disappearing and reforming elsewhere on the planet. The planet's frigid atmosphere, rich in methane gas, gives these storms their deep blue and shadowy appearance. Despite being so far from the Sun that sunlight is extremely dim, Neptune's storms reveal themselves as dynamic shifting systems alive with incomprehensible ferocity. To imagine standing in the path of winds faster than bullets is to glimpse weather at its most extreme, alien, and wild. Neptune proves that even in the cold darkness at the edge of our solar system, the atmosphere can rage with unmatched fury. Fact 89. Some exoplanets may rain glass sideways. Among the thousands of exoplanets discovered orbiting distant stars, some defy all imagination and challenge our understanding of what weather can be. On one particular distant planet, astronomers believe the skies are filled with silicate particles. These are tiny grains of glass floating in the atmosphere. Winds on this planet scream at over 4,000 miles per hour. They are strong enough to hurl these microscopic shards sideways across the atmosphere. At supersonic speeds, the result is a storm unlike anything found on Earth. Glass rain blowing horizontally faster than any hurricane. This planet has been observed through the dimming of starlight as it passes in front of its star. The data suggests an environment both beautiful and utterly lethal. Cobalt blue clouds reflect a dazzling hue visible from space. To picture a place where the rain cuts like knives instead of nourishing life is to see how profoundly alien weather can become on other worlds. Compared to this nightmare scenario, Earth's fiercest storms feel tame and gentle. Exoplanets remind us that our own weather is just one version of infinite possibilities written in the skies of countless worlds. Fact 90. Others may have clouds made of molten iron. If glass rain seems otherworldly and terrifying, consider the planets hot enough to vaporize metals into clouds. On worlds that orbit dangerously close to their parent stars, temperatures soar beyond 2,000 degrees Celsius. In such hellish places, clouds may form not from water vapor as they do on Earth, but from vaporized metals like iron and other heavy elements. When conditions shift and temperatures drop slightly, this vaporized iron condenses in the atmosphere. Imagine standing beneath a storm where droplets of molten iron sizzle as they strike the ground. They glow briefly with intense heat before cooling into solid metal. These environments, though completely uninhabitable by any life we know, stretch the imagination of what weather systems can be. Each discovery from distant worlds broadens our sense of the possible. It reveals that the familiar cycle of evaporation and rain on Earth is only one expression of a universal pattern. On distant alien worlds, weather writes itself in the language of fire and metal, strange and dazzling yet born of the same fundamental physics that govern our gentle clouds floating peacefully above. Fact 91. Earth's atmosphere once glowed orange after its birth. Billions of years ago, Earth's early skies were not the familiar blue we know and love today. The young planet's atmosphere was filled with gases from countless volcanic eruptions. Carbon dioxide, methane, ammonia, and nitrogen dominated the air. Without any oxygen present, the atmosphere glowed a hazy orange under the faint light of the young Sunday. The seas bubbled with chemical reactions. The first primitive forms of life emerged under this strange orange sky. Slowly but surely, they transformed the atmosphere. The orange haze gradually cleared. The sky turned the blue we recognize. The protective ozone layer formed high above, shielding emerging life from harmful radiation. To imagine Earth beneath an orange sky is to glimpse our planet in transition. A world before forests existed, before oceans teemed with fish, before clouds as we know them today. Our atmosphere has not always been what it is now. It has changed dramatically over billions of years, carrying within it the entire story of life itself. Fact 92. Ancient ice holds tiny samples of prehistoric air. Deep within glaciers and massive ice sheets, bubbles of air are trapped and sealed away for tens of thousands of years. When scientists drill ice cores from Antarctica or Greenland, they are not just extracting frozen water from the depths, they are retrieving actual time capsules from the past. Each distinct layer of ice holds a pristine record of the atmosphere from the year it originally formed. Within those microscopic bubbles lies the actual air our distant ancestors once breathed. It remains untouched for millennia, preserved perfectly in frozen suspension. By carefully studying these ancient samples, scientists can reconstruct Earth's climate history in remarkable detail. They track shifts in carbon dioxide, oxygen, and methane concentrations over hundreds of thousands of years. These invaluable records reveal cycles of ice ages and warming periods. They show how closely weather and climate have danced with the evolution of life. To hold a fragment of ancient ice in your hands is to cradle Earth's breath from long ago, a whisper of prehistoric skies preserved in crystal clarity, patiently waiting to tell its story of ages past to anyone willing to listen. Fact 93. The carbon cycle is deeply tied to weather patterns. Every breath we take, every storm that falls from the sky, and every gust of wind is intrinsically linked to something called the carbon cycle. This is the constant movement of carbon through air, land, ocean, and all living things. Plants draw carbon dioxide from the atmosphere through photosynthesis, locking it into their leaves and woody tissues. Animals eat plants, breathe, and return carbon to the air. Oceans absorb vast amounts of carbon from the atmosphere, storing it in shells, sediments, and deep cold waters. Volcanic eruptions release carbon back into the air. Meanwhile, weathering of rocks slowly pulls carbon back into the earth. Weather acts as both a driver and a messenger of this intricate cycle. Rains wash dissolved carbon into rivers that carry it to the sea. Storms stir carbon deep into ocean waters. Seasonal winds determine how much carbon dioxide plants can absorb during growing seasons. The delicate balance of carbon in the atmosphere directly shapes Earth's temperature and climate. To see the carbon cycle clearly is to realize that weather is not just the mood of any particular day. It is part of the fundamental heartbeat of the planet itself, pulsing through every living system. Fact 94. Clouds both warm and cool the planet simultaneously. Clouds are some of the most familiar and beloved features of the sky. Yet they hold immense power over Earth's entire climate system. By day, bright white clouds reflect precious sunlight back into space before it can warm the surface below. This creates a cooling effect. By night, those same clouds trap heat radiating from the ground, acting like a blanket that prevents warmth from escaping into space. The overall balance of these two opposing effects determines whether clouds warm or cool any particular region. Scientists are still studying, which influence dominates on a global scale. Different types of clouds play vastly different roles in this balance. Bright low clouds like cumulus tend to cool the surface. High thin cirrus clouds can trap more heat than they reflect, warming the atmosphere. Without clouds performing these functions, Earth would be far hotter during the day when the sun beats down. Nights would be much colder as heat escaped freely. Clouds are weather's regulators and thermostats. They shape both the immediate mood of the sky and the long-term balance of the entire climate system. A soft, shifting shield hovering protectively above our world. Fact 95. Melting sea ice changes wind and ocean patterns globally. In the Arctic regions, sea ice forms a bright reflective cap during winter. It reflects sunlight back into space very efficiently. As the climate warms and this ice melts away, darker ocean water becomes exposed underneath. This dark water absorbs far more heat from the sun instead of reflecting it. This seemingly simple change ripples outward in complex ways, altering winds, ocean currents, and even distant weather patterns thousands of miles away. With less ice present, the atmosphere behaves differently. Cold Arctic air sometimes pushes farther south in winter. Rainfall patterns shift in unexpected ways across different continents. The melting also disrupts fragile ecosystems. It affects animals like polar bears and seals that depend entirely on ice for hunting and survival. Sea ice is not just frozen water floating on the ocean. It is a critical component of Earth's climate engine. Watching it retreat year after year is like watching a crucial gear in the planet's machinery gradually slow down. This changes the way the entire interconnected system operates. Weather everywhere feels its influence, even in regions far from the poles. Fact 96. Climate change is making extreme weather more common worldwide. Around the world, scientists are observing a clear and troubling trend. Extreme weather events are growing more frequent and more intense with each passing year. Hurricanes grow stronger and more destructive. Floods strike harder and more suddenly. The warming of Earth's atmosphere loads the dice, making certain catastrophic events much more likely to occur. Warmer air holds significantly more moisture, which fuels heavier rainfall and more intense storms. These changes are not abstract statistics on a chart. They affect daily life, agriculture, human health, and safety in profound ways. Yet they also highlight the deep interconnectedness of climate and weather systems. What happens in the atmosphere is directly tied to choices human societies make on the ground. Understanding this connection allows us to prepare better, adapt more effectively, and work to mitigate future impacts. Extreme weather is not just a natural force acting independently anymore. It is increasingly shaped and amplified by human influence on the climate system. The storms, droughts, and floods we face today are part of a larger story in which humanity itself plays a significant role. Fact 97. Storm surges are rising higher with the seas. When a powerful hurricane or typhoon makes landfall on a coast, one of its deadliest features is not the screaming wind. It is the storm surge. This is the massive wall of ocean water pushed ashore by the storm's force and low pressure. These surges can rise several meters high, flooding coastal cities and sweeping away homes and infrastructure. As sea levels gradually rise with climate change, storm surges now begin from a higher baseline than before. This makes them substantially more destructive. Areas that once experienced only rare flooding during the strongest storms may now face it with increasing regularity from even moderate hurricanes. From above, a storm surge looks like the sea itself rising against the land in slow motion, temporarily erasing coastlines. For millions of people living near the ocean, it is one of the most immediate and visible reminders of how climate and weather intersect and amplify each other. The surge is not just a wave crashing on shore, it is the atmosphere's enormous power translated into the language of the sea itself, crashing into human shores with unstoppable force that reshapes communities and lives. Fact 98. Heat waves are growing hotter and lasting longer. Heat has always been part of weather's natural cycle through the seasons. But in recent decades, heat waves have become noticeably more severe across all continents. Records are being broken not just by a degree or two, but by margins that were once considered unimaginable. Nights which normally bring cooling relief now stay sweltering, trapping heat in cities and buildings. Crops wilt and die in fields, reservoirs shrink to alarming levels, power grids strain under the load as millions of people seek cooling. Heat waves kill more people worldwide than any other form of extreme weather, yet their effects are quiet and easily overlooked. Scientists directly tie their growing intensity to the warming climate, which shifts temperature baselines higher and makes extreme heat more likely. For those experiencing these prolonged heat waves, they serve as a stark reminder that weather is not always dramatic with thunder or rain. Sometimes it is simply still, oppressive air, a relentless warmth that seeps into every corner of daily life. Fact 99. Rainfall is shifting into new global patterns. The rhythm of rainfall defines life on Earth in fundamental ways. Monsoons, seasonal storms, and steady showers sustain crops, forests, and rivers that billions depend upon. Yet as the climate changes, these ancient patterns are shifting in profound ways. Some regions are seeing much heavier downpours that cause flash flooding. Others are enduring longer droughts that parch the land. Storm tracks are drifting from their historical paths. Dry zones are expanding into areas that were once fertile. Places that were once reliable agricultural centres are becoming arid and difficult to farm. For communities and entire nations that depend on predictable rains for survival, these changes bring immense uncertainty and struggle. Satellites now track rainfall across the entire globe continuously, revealing in stark detail how belts of moisture are moving and reshaping entire landscapes below. It is as though the planet itself is redrawing its ancient map of wet and dry regions. The air still holds water vapour, clouds still form as they always have. But where and when they release their life-giving bounty is changing in ways that challenge adaptation. This global reshuffling of rainfall is one of the quiet revolutions of weather, gradually altering the course of rivers, the expansion of deserts, and the fundamental balance of life itself across continents. Fact 100. Weather satellites now cover the entire planet continuously. High above Earth, an invisible fleet of satellites orbits silently in the darkness of space, watching the atmosphere below with tireless vigilance. They track cloud movements in real time, measure temperatures across vast regions, scan moisture levels, and even peer deep into the heart of developing storms. Every few minutes, they send streams of precious data back to Earth where scientists and forecasters weave it into increasingly accurate predictions. From these watchful mechanical eyes, no corner of the planet remains unseen or unmonitored. Hurricanes swirling over remote oceans, massive sandstorms sweeping across empty deserts, or even the subtle rise of water vapour hours before a storm system forms. These satellites have completely transformed weather forecasting, allowing us to predict disasters days in advance and save countless lives that would have been lost in previous generations. But they also provide us with beauty and perspective. They send back images of Earth's weather as shimmering mosaics of colour and motion, revealing patterns invisible from the ground. To know that above us machines keep constant vigil, turning the chaos of the atmosphere into comprehensible patterns we can study and understand, is to realize how far humanity has come in learning to read the complex language of the sky. We watch it, understand it, and prepare for it better than ever before in human history.